The Council of Ministers convenes to work out the mechanisms to implement the national program included in President Al-Assad's speech to solve the Syrian crisis. Iran declares support for President Al-Assad's initiative to solve the crisis through ending the violence and starting dialogue. Al-Qaeda Organization claims responsibility for the deadly attacks that erupted in Iraq at the end of last month. Good afternoon, this is Irado Krikorian with the news in English. The Council of Ministers has started its convention to work out the necessary mechanisms and implement the national program and ideas included in President Bashar al-Assad's speech last Sunday to solve the crisis in Syria. Information Minister Omran al-Zabi affirmed that the discussions would cover all aspects, including violence, terrorism, the foreign nationals in Syria and the terrorist organizations, as well as economic issues, public freedoms, the detainees and the details of national dialogue in terms of its essence and how and with whom it should be conducted. The Information Minister was astonished. How could some foreign ministers take a stand regarding the President's speech and the plan included before they had the time to get it translated? Azrabi pointed out that a committee to be formed by the Council of Ministers would start contact with all political, national and social figures preliminary to the convention of a national dialogue conference. He affirmed that all opposition forces are invited to take part in an unconditional national dialogue based on respect for the national sovereignty concept in all its meanings and principles. In reply to a question on the timing of President Al-Assad's speech, Mr. Azrabi said, the speech came at a time when circumstances became mature for presenting a comprehensive national program to transcend the crisis in Syria. Iran has reaffirmed its conviction that the best solution to the crisis in Syria is a political solution that starts with the halt of violence and a move towards national dialogue. The Iranian stand has been voiced by the Iranian Foreign Ministry spokesman Mehmanparast, who emphasized that no country is entitled to impose its will on the Syrian people or take decisions on their behalf. They should rather, he added, create a calm atmosphere for the Syrians to decide their own future. Mehmanparast said Iran attaches great importance to President Al-Assad's initiative, adding that his country has declared its support for the President's speech and initiative. Mehmanparast expressed hope that the American policy would change and move from a tendency to intervene in other states' affairs to respect for other people's rights. The political parties, organizations and commissions have stressed the need to respond positively to the initiative that was included in President Al-Assad's speech. The People's Will Party has stressed that the President's initiative opens the way for a solution to the crisis in Syria, as it is based on a comprehensive national dialogue in which anti-foreign intervention forces take part. The party said, the initiative has outlined in detail a plan for the sake of reaching a consensus that combines as many forces from the regime and the opposition as possible to ensure an exit out of the crisis. Those who reject dialogue, the party said, will be responsible for the Syrian bloodshed. The People's Will Party added that dialogue should be public and open to discuss all issues, and the Syrian people are the side that should make the decisions. The Democratic Vanguard's party has stressed that President Al-Assad's speech represents a guide for national action away from foreign and Zionized regional and Arab equations. The party called on all honest Syrians and patriots to transcend pain and agony and work together for a Syria that is independent in its will, decision and policy. The National Reform Party has described the President's speech as reflecting a clear strategic vision to solve the crisis in Syria, as it preserves principles and rights and conveys a message to every Syrian citizen to take part in building the homeland. In a statement, the party called on all political forces inside and outside Syria to interact positively with this national initiative. The National Youth Party has voiced hope that all Syrian national forces inside and outside Syria would respond to President Al-Assad's call, which was included in his speech, considering it as a positive step to solve the crisis in Syria. The Syrian Human Rights Watch Network has described President Al-Assad's speech as very valuable and important, that has been met with satisfaction by the majority of the Syrian people and has laid down the foundation of the mechanisms needed to solve the crisis from a secular human rights perspective. On their part, the members of the People's Party's Executive Bureau discussed ways and means of action to support the roadmap presented by President Bashar al-Assad in his word, which aims at building a renewable Syria and guaranteeing its territorial integrity and independent political decision. Our valiant armed forces continued its national task of clearing Hama and its countryside of the terrorist groups that wreaked havoc in the area. A unit of the Syrian Arab Army eliminated an armed terrorist group which has been launching handmade shells on the residents in Mehmanparast, Hama countryside. Among the terrorists killed there were Sulaiman Ibrahim Sulaiman and Murhaf Muhammad al-Shine. Our armed forces also fended off an attack by an armed terrorist group on the village of Ain Isa in Al-Raqqa countryside. The Syrian Arab Army destroyed 2 vehicles, one of which was equipped with a mortar gun and the other one was a van carrying terrorists' arms and ammunition. The Syrian Army also arrested other terrorists and seized different kinds of weapons and communication devices. In Iraq, Al-Qaeda Organization has claimed responsibility for the deadly terrorist attacks that took place on the 31st of last December in a number of Iraqi cities and killing and wounding dozens of citizens. The organization said the operations, which spread in many provinces in Iraq, were executed by what he called the soldiers of Iraq's Islamic State. 23 people at least were killed, including 8 policemen, and 83 others were wounded in the operations that were carried out with explosive devices and booby-trapped cars. A Turkish soldier was killed and 2 others were injured in clashes with members of the Kurdistani Labour Party in Hakkari province, east of the country. According to Turkish sources, several members of the Kurdistani Labour Party were trying to storm into a police station in Jokorja district when the clashes erupted. 12 members of the Kurdistani Labour Party were wounded. With this, we end our news for today. Thank you for watching. For more news about Syria and the region, and to view this bulletin again, you can always visit our website in English, SyriaOnline.sy. Now to latest business and market news with Nariman Qassam after a short break.